the whole reason we do this podcast, and that's if most of your business's systems are housed inside of your brain, then you're never going to own your exit.
No.
Because your company cannot exist without your mental involvement, right? And so I think maybe the biggest takeaway from this is if you're building a business and you want that business to at some point grow beyond you, where you can sort of build a door and come and go and it still is somewhat autonomous from you, then one of the biggest steps that you can take, especially if you're growing and you're building and your revenue's increasing, your lead flow is increasing, your output is increasing at a rapid pace, get your systems clear to where you can show them to someone else and can teach them how to run those different aspects of the business.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Aaron here, your co-host at Own the Exit.
Yeah, I'm Caleb. We're here in the studio. I just want to welcome you to another episode of Own the Exit. Aaron and I, we've just been in here chatting about businesses and why they fail, right? There was some sort of statistic or whatever that you read that was real interesting.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, there's a few different reports, but anywhere from 50 to 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years.
That's
so,
crazy.
5 people start a business today, and obviously 5 years from now, there's one that's in existence. So 4 of them fail. I've talked to multiple, business owners where it's failed. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Because starting a business is hard, right? You have to work. You don't necessarily get paid right away. There's that risk. There's that huge effort, and then for it to just fail.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if in those statistics, like when did they officially say the business has started? Because I've had a lot of business ideas over my entrepreneurial career where I'll start down a path for a period of time and maybe start doing something with it, and then it kind of gets to a certain point and it just sort of fizzles out. And I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs that feel that way. I don't know if those even kind of count. Do they?
Well, there's probably a lot of businesses where it's just shut down voluntarily.
Yeah.
I've had some ventures and different things where it was we tried it, and it's almost like I view it as like research and development almost.
Yeah,
you're just trying a little side thing to maybe it supplements what you're doing, and then you're like, I don't want to grow that. I don't want it to be successful.
Yeah.
So then you shut it down. And so, and I was thinking too, how many businesses are quote businesses, but it's just it's a sole proprietor. It's more of buying a job type thing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a business that somebody is ever trying to scale, and maybe they just kind of did it for a little period of time. But I've talked to business owners. I know there's this one guy, he started a donut lounge, and I think you might know the guy.
Absolutely.
It's been a while, it's probably 5-10 years ago. It was in Kansas City. Super cool concept. He had cocktails.
And they made amazing donuts.
And it was so good.
They had I remember they had this one donut that was called the Dolly, or I think it was the Dolly. And it was sheep's milk with basil and honey and root beer icing. And it was crazy good. I'm really great product, best donut maybe I've ever eaten.
Yeah. And so, but the business failed, right? And he poured himself. He said, every morning he was waking up at, 2-3 in the morning, just puking in the toilet.
Wow.
For months because of the pressure, right?
And all the donuts.
Well, there's that too. But, that's classic entrepreneur, right? Of just waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety, and you just pace, I feel like if you're truly trying to get a business going and you have an idea, and you're not going in it to fail, right?
Of course.
And so why do these businesses fail? Why is it difficult to start a business and have it not fail?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of businesses face is undercapitalization. It's especially in service-based businesses like restaurants and things like that, when they start. I know the statistics for failure in the restaurant and hospitality industry are
huge,
significantly higher than the average across all business types, right? Across all industries.
Which is interesting because there's a restaurant on every corner that's packed, right?
Right.
And so you think of all the failed ones, how many people are trying to do that? And
it's something like 9 out of 10 new restaurant starts fail within the first 2 years.
Wow.
And the biggest reason is typically undercapitalization. I mean, I think I've said this before, but like it's why the McDonald's franchise concept was so powerful, because they literally reversed that statistic. And now like 9 out of every 10 new McDonald's that opens succeeds and is profitable in the first like 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? And
because it's almost not even like a restaurant primarily.
Right.
It's more of just like system.
It's a system. It's a system.
It's real estate in a very desirable location on a great corner.
Yeah.
And just the internal processes, and the burgers are like whatever, right?
Yeah. Because I'm thinking like every like new restaurant, like I could start a restaurant today and make a better burger than McDonald's makes.
Yeah.
Like I feel fairly confident in that. Now I've got some chops in the kitchen, I'm not gonna lie, but like I know people like personally that, you know, I know very few people who make a burger worse than McDonald's, right? Like it's not an exceptionally great product.
No.
And so like
it's just consistent and it's mediocre. And I went to McDonald's just unfortunately a few days ago because it was just there, right?
I always get the turned into confession here. No, I'm kidding.
I always get the 2 cheeseburger meal.
Yeah.
I love it. I've been having that ever since I was like a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 2 cheeseburgers and fries. Of course, the price has gone up significantly, but
yeah, no. Have you ever watched Jim Gaffigan, the comedian?
Yeah, I have.
He has this whole bit about McDonald's, and he's like,
I hadn't seen that one. But.
He's like, you see somebody runs into you at McDonald's, and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I'm just meeting a hooker. I wasn't here to eat.
Yeah, like that's more like socially acceptable than going to McDonald's.
That's less shameful than eating at McDonald's.
That's so funny.
Anyway,
but you know, your point on cash flow, I think growing too fast is a reason businesses fail too.
Oh yeah,
because I'm just thinking in some of my business experience, like any dollar that you have, you're trying to use it to grow. But if you grow too fast, then you don't have any money, and liquid, right? You're just it's good stuff. You're not doing anything bad.
Yeah.
All the decisions that you're making could be totally right. But if you make them too early, then you don't, there's that cash crunch, right? And so I think that goes along with, one of the big reasons, like either you don't have enough money to even take advantage of the opportunities or even stay small, and you just kind of like you're not making any money.
Yeah.
Or you're growing too fast, and then you just kind of so I feel like there's that ebb and flow, right, with business where you have to invest a lot, but then you want that time where you're not investing. You're just getting your cash flow, your minimum working capital that you need for your business, and trying to maintain that. I struggle with that. I always want to like use my working capital, for like another initiative or whatever. But it's that can cause business failure.
So what do you think in that area what is the one thing that new business owners should do differently to set themselves up to not fail because of a cash flow crunch?
I don't know, man. If it's a really small business, I think that it can be wise to just keep your day job or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because if your business is your only source of income, it's difficult.
And especially when you're starting out, of course.
Yeah, because the money is all used for when you're the business owner. It goes to expenses, employee overhead, everything. And if there's anything left, the business owner gets it, right?
Yeah.
And there's not anything left a lot of times in the first initial. So, man, starting a business, I feel like if you can have another source of income somehow, or maybe you have a spouse who works, or maybe you're able to save up $50,000 or whatever the number is, for that you need. I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too of in Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Robert Kiyosaki's book, we reference that, on this show quite a bit because I think most entrepreneurs can resonate with at some point in their entrepreneurial journey. Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of played a role for a lot of entrepreneurs in kind of awakening this like entrepreneurial spirit in them. But he actually gives some pretty powerful tactical tips in that book. And one of the things he talks about is when you're starting a business, pay yourself first. Because it does 2 things. One, it ensures that you don't starve while you're building this thing, right? And then, but number 2 is like if you pay yourself first, then as a business owner, you're going to feel that healthy amount of pressure to go out and produce that revenue to pay the rest of everything else, right? But you've already taken care of yourself. Because like entrepreneurs shouldn't be like building these businesses that are, you know, paying all these employees and doing all this, but they're like literally their family is not getting the benefit while all these other families are that work for you. You know what I mean? And so like it is a balance. I understand that, but
managing cash flow.
Yeah.
Because you can try to pay yourself first, but then if you don't have the money left for the other responsibilities, then you have to just give it back, you know?
Yeah. Or just figure out how to make more money in the business. Which is,
or
I think
make more.
I think that's Kiyosaki's point. Is like pay yourself first, then it'll force you. It's like what is it, Craig Groeschel that talks about one of the greatest like drivers of innovation is a lack of resources.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so like when you're, you know, when you feel that like lack of resource, then it's going to cause you to that creative, innovative side of you to come out and figure out, okay, how do I solve this problem? And that's what entrepreneurs are truly great at, you know, is solving problems. That's why we get paid. What we get paid is we solve other people's problems, right? If you're a plumber, you know, that started an entrepreneur that started a plumbing business, then you solve people's plumbing problems, right? If you're a knowledge worker, you're solving people's knowledge problem, right? Entrepreneurs solve problems. And so then applying that to our own business to solve the cash flow problem. I mean, I think it's a powerful concept that Kiyosaki teaches, as well as that Groeschel concept.
Yeah, and no, I love that. And like I think of like Elon Musk, who's like the richest person on the earth, and he's having cash flow problems. Yeah. You know, because he keeps investing, you know, back into the next thing,
new rockets,
you know, he has certain like deadlines, like he needs, you know, X amount of $1 billion by this date, or everything's going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
You know, and he constantly puts himself in those situations, which forces the innovation, right? Yeah. He seems pretty good at getting money at the last, you know, the 11th hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, so cash flow shortages or management, and then, you know, I think going into a business, I mean, just fully understanding like your market, right? Like who are the competitors, who doing that market research. I'm not sure how that factors in, but I would say that's...
Yeah, I would say overall, I mean, just from what I've seen, it's probably lacking like a clearly defined business plan, which would include, you know, knowledge about your competitors, knowledge about the surrounding market, knowledge even about, you know, what people's needs and desires and pain points are, which kind of bridges, you know, kind of balances between business plan and marketing, right? Like, but I would say, you know, just focusing and zooming in on the business plan piece, it's like the old quote, like, you know, failure to plan is planning for failure. Like if you don't have a clearly defined plan from the outset, if it's like you may have a really great product, you may have it's like Donut Lounge guy that you mentioned, really great product. Who knows why he
great
failed?
product,
I don't
great
know.
location, great people.
But maybe the issue was the business plan just did not have clarity on exactly what things needed to be executed consistently to drive the desired outcome. Yeah. So what's one thing that you would say has, you know, because you've built several successful businesses, I built a few myself. And so, you know, executing and building out business plans, what's one thing that you would advise entrepreneurs who are launching new businesses in terms of structuring a business plan? Like what's one piece of advice or one nugget you would give folks like that?
I mean, I always reverse engineer everything. How I always see if we want to be here at the end of the year, and then just kind of working backwards so that I know what steps need to be taken monthly, right? Yeah. I'm big on timelines, you know, knowing, you know, where we need to be, like project management, but you need to do that for your whole business though. It's like business management. Yeah. It's like where you're going to be. So I think I spend huge amounts of my time just with the whiteboard. People bug me because I guess I didn't realize not everyone liked them as much as I do. I subject the team to my whiteboards, you know, for hours at a time. But yeah, whiteboards, you know, spreadsheets, just to understand, like, you know, and then you obviously have to go out there and execute and everything. But when you're a business owner, like seeing the plan and then seeing like, okay, what is it going to take to achieve this? And then like, who's going to do it? And so then like any holes, like even me and you've been working together, and there's things we've seen like 6 months and even 12 months early, like, okay, we're going to need this person on this time.
Yep.
And now we have that person.
Yeah.
And now we can see the next person probably like at the end of this year, we're going to need this person.
Yeah.
You know, and we're working towards that. And sometimes you're off, you know, by a couple months or whatever on needing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, but yeah, just thinking, always trying to think long term. And always realizing business is going to be just going to take a while.
Yeah.
You know, and even if you're, you know, luck out and are super successful right away, like there's still all the systems and the foundation and it depends what the goal is, right? If you're trying to have a business that lasts for a long time, that ends up being like an enduring, like legacy business that you could even sell or hire people to manage, like then that's one thing. But if it's just kind of a side hustle or you know, then you know that's different, I guess. You don't have to be as hardcore with it.
Something you mentioned there, I've found this true in our you know current business, our main business, and that's been that we did grow really fast, right? Like really fast over the last, you know, 18 months. And something that you mentioned about not being like systems being clearly defined, it's like if you have the gift of rapid growth, then sometimes that comes with the cost of your systems are less defined because you're housing more of how your business operates in your mind and it's not systematically recorded.
Right.
So that's kind of a challenge that we're in right now, is like we're in the process of unpacking a lot of the systems to make them really clear so that we can bring people in to manage those different aspects of the business, right?
Yeah.
So that's just an important thing, I think, for businesses.
And if you don't have that, it starts to be, you can't just keep growing.
Yeah.
Without simultaneously having management.
Yes.
Because it's not fun. It's just, for me, like I don't like when everything's just, which is funny because that's kind of how I am.
Yeah.
It's just very big picture and always have a new idea or something that we could try. But there's no peace if you're just growing and everything's just up in the air. And even if you're making tons of money, it's like, I want to have it managed. Right. You know, and I think because just from a long-term standpoint. Like,
well, and it feeds into, you know, the whole reason we do this podcast. And that's if most of your business's systems are housed inside of your brain, then you're never going to own your exit.
No.
Because your company cannot exist without your mental involvement, right? And so I think maybe the biggest takeaway from this is if you're building a business and you want that business to at some point grow beyond you, where you can sort of build a door and come and go and it still is somewhat autonomous from you, then one of the biggest steps that you can take, especially if you're growing and you're building and your revenue's increasing, your lead flow is increasing, your output is increasing at a rapid pace, get your systems clear to where you can show them to someone else and can teach them how to run those different aspects of the business.
And I wonder if that's a reason too why businesses quote fail. Yeah. They didn't like fail. The business owner just didn't want to do the business anymore, and so then the business stopped too.
Right.
You know,
but just got overwhelmed.
Well, yeah, like, he's wanting to, either he was overwhelmed or he actually, for good reason, wanted to stop, but like there was no way to transfer that on to. Yeah. So I think it's a good exercise to like go through your business, every division or whatever it is you're doing, and ask yourself like, what if you weren't doing it, like could it still work, right?
Could it still work?
So I do that exercise where I'm like, I actually cannot remove myself from my current business. Yeah. If I remove myself, it would not work. Right. And so I'm like, that's not the ideal though, but that's how it is when you start it. But I wonder if a lot of, if that factors into it too. Yeah. With the reason the business, there's a lot of short term, businesses starting, stopping, is because the founders or whoever's getting it going, they don't ever do what you just said. They don't, it just revolves around them.
They don't get it out of their head on the paper.
Something happens to them.
Right. They don't get it out of their head onto paper so that someone else can be taught how to execute on that part of the business.
Yeah.
So, man, this is a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks everyone for joining us for this episode of Own the Exit.
Thanks, guys.
This has been a great conversation here with Aaron and I. And listen, if you enjoy the show, we just want to invite you and ask you to give us a review, share it with someone else, an entrepreneur that you think would benefit from listening to this show. And until next time, we just want to encourage you, keep going out there, keep building and owning your exit. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.